Masquera saying Zimbabwe, welcome to our channel Zim Confessions and Deep Secrets. Kanakariki kutanga kukuya panino channel, please don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe, don't forget to comment and share this video. Nasi Zimbabwe takuigira nyaya yaburitswa by the presidential spokesperson wa George Charamba ababuda vachiaccusa the opposition leader Honai Chamisa nenyaya yekumisa multiple opportunities for a meaningful dialogue with the government. Vacharamba vabuda vachiclaim vachiti ma actions akaitwa na vachamisa are the ones akakonzeresa kuti pasawanike pachiitwa potential progress towards the national unity and economic recovery muri Zimbabwe. Vabuda vachiendera mberi vachitaura but despite ma setbacks iwawa, the president NaMnangagwa and the ruling ZANU-PF party iri committed to engaging in the national dialogue and aimed at fostering unity and lifting the country out of its current socio-economic challenges. Tisingaziye kuti munoona sei nyaya iyi vacharamba vabuda vachitaura ivo vachiti vachamisa vakadismissa ma-key negotiators avo vanga vapositionwa kuti vange vachifacilitate the discussion between the opposition and the government, according to vacharamba vachamisa create a roadblock to initiating a constructive dialogue. Mushure mekunge vakaudza ma emissaries avo kuti vawanikwe vachimira kuenda kuma negotiations aya. Vabuda vacharamba vachitaura vachiti Chamisa had several openings for dialogue, but he dismissed his emissaries, thereby derailing potential progress. Vakaemphasize vachiti this opportunity yakamiswa na Honai Chamisa is the one yakamisa nyika kuti iende kumberi. So vachava George Charamba havana kunge vaspecifya kuti ndianani vanhu vainge vatumwa navachamisa plus vanonge vaemphasize the nature of the missed opportunity. But vabuda vachitaura ivo vachiti the pattern of reluctance or inability on Chamisa's part to engage in talks ndo yakakonzeresa kuti paonekwe pasingaitwe the national dialogue muri Zimbabwe. Tisingaziye kuti munoona sei nyaya iyi vaendera mberi vachiti the government is open for the national dialogue vachiti despite ma setbacks akaitika nguva yapfuura paMnangagwa vachiri open for my talks. But actually, President NaMnangagwa has always been open to dialogue that fosters unity and helps lift the nation. So we believe that through constructive engagement, we can find common ground and work towards the betterment of Zimbabwe. Tisingaziye kuti munoona sei nyaya iyi. According to my political analysts, vabuda vachitaura vachiti in order for the dialogue to be successful, there are several factors anoda kuaddresswa. Zvakaita sana mutual trust, hanzi panofanira kubuildwa trust between the ruling party and the opposition. This requires my sides to demonstrate a genuine commitment to dialogue and willingness to listen to each other. There should also be clear objectives muri Zimbabwe about the agenda here dialogue zvakare. Panofanira pane zvakare transparency, since everything every stage inofanira kudzoka ichiupdatewa the public muri Zimbabwe. Tisingaziye kuti munoona sei nyaya iyi kuti vari kuita hazvina kumira mushe. The CCC faction iri kutungamirirwa na vapromise Nkwananzi nana Jameson Timber iri kutaura iyo ichiti hapana dialogue uri kuitwa. They are saying kuti no to GNU. Vataura vachiti there is no dialogue yavari kuita, and these are fake rumors dzekuti pane dialogue yakarongwa naChamisa naMnangagwa. Anofunga takanzwawo Chamisa achitaura iye achiti there is need for national dialogue, meaning kuti hana kunge apiwa mukana wekunge achiwana nguva napresident Emerson Mnangagwa. So kutaura kwatiri kuita the CCC faction iri kutungamirirwa navaTimber vari kuronga a peaceful protest muri Zimbabwe vachitara vachiti vakabirirwa ma-elections tisingazive kuti muriona sei nyaya iyi. Pane audio yatoda kungokunzwisai Promise Mkwananza achitaura pamusoro penyaya iyi, mobva matiudza pamusoro penyaya iyi mucomment section.
Through their march, and this is happening 40 years after independence, which independence at the center of it was the issue of the freedoms of the people of Zimbabwe. And it is a stark reminder that 42 years after independence, we still do not have the so-called rights that we fought for. I want to say that in addition to the security from the Almighty, the bishop and the people that are going to march are also protected and secured by Section 59 of the Zimbabwean Constitution, which makes it permissible for Zimbabwean citizens to express themselves in peaceful and non-violent manner on issues where they have a challenge or they are not happy about. So we must proceed in terms of carrying out peaceful and non-violent actions under the auspices of Section 59 of the Constitution. I had to say this because it appears that it's in Zimbabwe, peaceful protests have been outlawed, and that is not the case. Zimbabweans still have an absolute right to protest, to picket, to petition, as provided for by Section 59 of the Constitution, and indeed various other relevant provisions. And I want to also pick up on the spiritual war, which the bishop ably articulated. I think it's very important that our struggle is centered on a living God, and everything happens at the appointed time according to God's will. We are now going into the physical actions as described by the doctor. And as the citizens movement, we endorse any process that is peaceful, lawful, and non-violent that seeks to put pressure on the NaMnangagwa regime to address the concerns, not just of the citizens, but as the diaspora as well as of the region and the international community, which were communicated through their various reports after the disputed elections. In light of that, we have come up with a campaign which is called Zimbabwe Arise campaign. Many of you may have seen something circulating which says no to GNU, no to 2030, no to third term, no to SADC Zim chairmanship, no to illegitimacy, no to corruption, no to dynasty, no to police brutality, no to unjust taxes, and no to partisan food distribution. And I hasten to say that you may add other no's that you see as citizens that are unacceptable at the moment in our country, in Zimbabwe. Now, to give context to this dispute, you will all remember that in August 2023, an election was conducted. And there is no need for a rocket scientist to know that that election did not go according to plan, let alone produce a legitimate and undisputed winner. And the reasons for that were spelled out very clearly by the observer missions that were in the country, by the presidential candidate Advocate Nelson Chamisa, by civil society, by the churches, by the generality of the citizenry, and indeed many others. So that is the starting point, that we have had an inconclusive, disputed election that has failed to produce a legitimate, undisputed leader in Zimbabwe. And the comparison with the just ended elections in South Africa will give you the stark realities of the shambolic and sham process that took place in Zimbabwe. In South Africa, for example, they've got about 50 million citizens, and they had a budget of $118 million US. Whereas here in Zimbabwe, we've got about 15 million citizens, and we have a budget of $255 million US. And if you look at the voting process here in Zimbabwe, we could not even find ballot papers at polling stations, whereas in South Africa, results and the whole electoral process was digitalized. It was timers, it was free and fair, there was no intimidation, no murder, no arrests. The elections went as free and fair as possible. The results were posted on time, and those that had issues like the Mkhonto party, their issues were attended to by the IEC on a timely basis. But in Zimbabwe, almost a year after the elections, the issues that were raised by the presidential candidate advocate Nelson Chamisa have still not been attended to. As if that is not enough, the regime went on to unlawfully recall members of parliament, council, and senate that had been elected or seconded under the ticket of the then Citizens Coalition for Change as led by President Nelson Chamisa. Now that exacerbated the problem of legitimacy for Mr. Mnangagwa. Paradoxically, Mr. Mnangagwa himself has worsened his own position by undermining even the results, the cooked results